Expectations are through the roof for Mike Macdonald's defense in Seattle going into the 2025 season, and two key young defensive linemen are part of that equation going into a new season. I'm going to be breaking down, along with my co-host Nick Lee, what we saw in day 3 of Seahawks training camp, two rising stars of the defensive line impressing at the VMAC. Coming up next here on our Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Glad to be joined here on Blue Friday by my co-host Nick Lee, and a special thanks to all the 12s out there, whether you're tuning in from Tampa, Florida and Buccaneers country, or in Spokane, Washington. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. Day 3 of Seahawks training camps in the books from the VMAC. And Nick, you can tell that we are getting close to the padded season because guys are starting to get antsy. They're starting to get agitated. They're starting to get mouthy. These guys want to hit, but unfortunately, we're not going to be there until Monday. Going to be diving into what I saw and heard there. Nick and I are going to be diving into some key topics coming out of this latest training camp practice. This episode brought your way by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now for your lead story here on our Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Expectations are through the roof for this defense in Seattle, and understandably so. Last year, the last 9 games finished as one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL for points allowed per game. You have 13 of your 14 players that had the most snaps last year back for 2025, so you've got continuity. By the way, you added DeMarcus Lawrence. You added Nick Emmanwori in the draft. The Seahawks have a lot to be excited about on this side of the ball. But in particular, it seems like there is a lot of attention that's being given to 2 players on the defensive line. And today, those expectations were further heightened by a couple of veterans. And, well, one of the players did it to himself as well. I want to start off with Byron Murphy II, because obviously last year, when you look at the statistics, Nick, he had half the sack and 2 quarterback hits. As the number 16 overall pick, he played in 14 games. A lot of fans are going to look at those numbers and they are going to be screaming, bust. Where's the numbers? Where's the production? And yet when you turn on the tape, it doesn't look that way. Number 91 was very impactful in the games that he played for the Seahawks. And the 3 games he didn't, they gave up 173 rushing yards per game and lost all 3 of those games. So he was incredibly valuable beyond what some of your traditional statistics would say. And yet at the same time, I get why fans are frustrated by the limited sack and quarterback hit numbers, because this is a top 15, top 16 pick. You're expecting splash plays. You are expecting impact plays. What we've seen here so far in training camp, he looks like he's added about 5 or 6 pounds of muscle to his frame. He was already incredibly strong, as Jaron Reed said today, strong as blank. We can't repeat the verbatim that he used, but he had some eloquent ways of saying that Byron Murphy II is incredibly strong. The question is going to boil down to, can they get into more situations? As Mike Macdonald pointed out, can they just get into more situations where he is able to rush the passer? Because he did have a top 8 pass rush pressure rate among defensive tackles last year. He just didn't have enough opportunities. They're hoping that they can fix that this year.
Yeah, with defensive linemen, I feel like it's kind of like catchers in baseball, where it's really hard to just totally quantify the value and the impact they're making on a day-to-day or game-to-game basis. A lot of the stuff it's not going to show up sexy in the box score or in the stat sheet. For catchers, it's the pitch framing, the pop time to second base, the relationship with the pitching staff. That stuff doesn't show up much like with defensive linemen. They're taking up blocks, they're freeing up the second level of the defense. They're kind of moving the offensive line into positions of peril, basically, for the offense. Stuff that's really hard. We're getting better at that as a society, like you said, with some pressure rate stuff, some pass rush win rate things. And I love the comments from Jaron Reed, and even going as far as saying he's got like defensive player of the year kind of capabilities. And, as a first round defensive lineman, you'd like to think that, yes, that is his ceiling. And a quiet rookie year, trying to and marred by an interruption of injury. My goodness, I can't talk right now. And with the addition of Ernest Jones in the middle of the season last year, and then on top of that, him returning from injury, Murphy, boy, that defense took off. And so if we can get a healthy Murphy, it looks like a stronger yet heavier Murphy, which along the defensive line, is pretty exciting to watch. And like you were saying last year, like this dude is just built different, and this year seems like it's even more so. And clearly, he was a first round talent for a reason. I think we're not even close to tossing around the B word yet with him. I am pretty confident we're going to see the next level of Byron Murphy. What does that look like? It's hard to quantify for a defensive lineman. Certainly more than half a sack would be nice. Maybe get into the 5 to 6 sack range would be great. But at this point, there's no reason to believe that Byron Murphy can't take another big step.
Yeah, I think this could be a case where he could be like a player that we saw last year. Derick Hall had no sacks his rookie season, second round pick, and then he goes off and gets 8 last year, and he had 20 quarterback hits. I could see Byron Murphy the second and an interior equivalent having that kind of a jump this year because the talent's clearly there, the strength, the speed. He's still incredibly agile for a player of his size. But Derick Hall, speaking of Derick Hall, Byron Murphy II today got to the backfield a few times. Until the pads come on, you can take that with a grain of salt. But Derick Hall, I didn't get to see this live. I was over doing a radio interview, and I was able to watch some of the stuff that was going on in the other field. But they were doing individual and defensive, offensive line pass rush drills. And I did get to see a replay of this after the fact. Derick Hall going up against Josh Jones. And I know they don't have pads on, but these guys still make some contact. Well, Derick Hall decided, you know what? I'm ready for pads. Let's just go with it. Gets underneath him, picks him up, and then kind of just tossed Josh Jones out to the side. And it wasn't even necessarily that he was being malicious, like with pads on. It's just like, this is just what I do. Tossed to the side. And Jarran Reed talked about it after practice that he's like, I had to dodge it because he threw Josh Jones into my pass rushing lane. And just the pure power that Derick Hall brings to the equation. And I love that Jarran Reed said that, this guy compares so much to DeMarcus Lawrence in his play style and his mentality, because when I watch him, he does look like a younger version of DeMarcus Lawrence, just with the pure power that he plays with and massive lower body, the way he carries himself in drill work. He's clearly taken to that. The expectations for Derick Hall, look, we've already seen a really solid season from him, but gosh, if you could get a double-digit sack season from him, and this guy continues to emerge as a run defender as well with his pure power and his tenacity. I mean, this is a guy that gets after it. He, as much as anybody, was one of the Energizer bunnies that made today's practice a lot more lively than what it had been the first 2 days. Almost to a point that I'm sure Mike Macdonald was kind of hovering on that. Do I need to step in and try to cool things off a little bit? Because these guys are ready for Monday when the pads are finally going to come out.
Well, I'm always good for a pop culture reference. Sorry about that. But Lord of the Rings, the second one, the Two Towers, when they're at the end, the Uruk-hai are all there banging their spears and roaring in the rain and just frothing at the mouth to get the war started.
That's Derick Hall.
That's the defense getting ready to hit. Like they are, like you said, they're ready to hit. They are, but you love that because it is kind of back to, again, this is a dangerous thing to say, but like the Legion of Boom, where the defense just can't wait to impose their will on right now their teammates on offense. But that's just the attitude they're carrying, and they're banging their spears on the ground and kind of growling and just trying anything to just control themselves, which is what you love. You love that because it's coming soon. So and I love I think it was Greg Bell who tweeted that the defense was winning and woofing again.
They were loud today. They were like Julian Love's pick, like guys were just screaming bloody murder, and they were Nick Emenwari was all over. We got to see him start howling. And he's doing more of the first team, by the way. But it was the fans that got to see practice today for a non-padded practice, this was a very energized practice. And I think Julian Love's pick kind of got everything rolling, because from there, and then obviously in the other field, you had Derick Hall doing what he did. And then, and Jaron Reed just took the lunch money away from Gray Zabel on one of the reps. It was kind of that welcome to the NFL moment. Zabel's going to have some of those. That doesn't mean that he's going to be a bad player. Jaron Reed has done that to many an offensive lineman in his career. So, yeah, there was a lot of really fun stuff with this defense. And like Jaron Reed said, hey, it's getting real. And that's the case. Monday, we're going to see these guys really start getting after each other. So they are frothing at the mouth. They are ready for that opportunity to hit. And I can't wait to watch it when the pads come out on Monday. When we come back, we've got more observations from day 3 of Seahawks training camp. We're going to go to the offensive side of the ball and Nick's favorite pastime. We're going to talk some more about the center position, because there's some intrigue there for the Seahawks going on here in training camp. He looks so excited. We're going to get to that coming up next here on our Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. This episode is brought your way by our friends over at GameTime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with your friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where GameTime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or you can just invite a bigger group. Maybe I can have Nick and his family come with me next time. GameTime makes it possible. GameTime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices in the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. GameTime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easier to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, like when the Mariners and the Blue Jays play again. I'm hoping to get in the stands for that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You're listening to the Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm Corbin Smith. He's Nick Lee. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in. And thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. We are going to keep knocking on wood here, hoping that the connections stay solid here. Just so everybody knows, like, I still have not relocated back to Seattle yet. I'm in a hotel for training camp. Nick is in a hotel right now doing work stuff. So let's pray that everything stays functioning and the internet gods like the Seahawks, and they're going to allow us to talk about the Seahawks. Anyway, let's talk day 3 some more. Seahawks training camp. We've discussed Byron Murphy II, Derick Hall, Nick Emenwari, just the energy that defense is playing with right now, ready to hit. Let's transition to the offensive side of the football. And I want to kick off the discussion here with a position that, for better or worse, we've had to talk about a lot the last several seasons. And there's still maybe some questions about what the long-term solution is going to be at the center spot. Olu Oluwatimi, I still think, is the favorite. I think he played well in those last 9 games last season, at least well enough to give him a shot to be the guy. You've got Jalen Sundell. We're going to have more on him later in the show. I had a chance to chat with him, so that'll be coming up later in the show. But you've now got Christian Haynes squarely in the mix, as Mike Macdonald put it today. Now, he made it clear that Sundell and Oluwatimi are ahead of him, but he also said that he is in the mix at both positions. And I'm going to say this, Nick. 2 days ago, we called him ankle biters here on the podcast. His snaps were really low consistently. He looked like a guy that hasn't played center because, quite frankly, he hasn't, aside from crash coursing at Mobile in the Senior Bowl a couple years ago. But towards the end of the second practice, he was starting to fire some pretty accurate snaps. And then today, every snap that I saw him do was right into quarterback's hands, and it was with velocity. It looked beautiful. And I was enjoying seeing him after the snap get out of his stance and fly off the ball. It was as athletic as I've seen any center for the Seahawks since Max Unger. Not going to lie, just the movement skills. There's a lot of other things that need to happen there for him to become a center. He's got a lot of room to grow. But just what he's done in a couple days, how quick of a learner he's been. Look, I think we've at least got to say right now that if Christian Haynes keeps playing well there and Seattle's thinking something else at right guard, like maybe Jalen Sundell, maybe they want Sundell playing guard in this offense. But it looks like with both those guys, they're trying to figure out what's the best way we can get both of them in the lineup. And maybe that ends up making Oluwatimi a backup. I mean, we'll see, but it does seem like John Benton right now is kind of playing that mad scientist role. Like, I want to see what all these guys can do at different spots. And I want to have flexible linemen that I can move all over the place if I have to. And it's been refreshing seeing how he's been teaching the technique and not taking too much time away from actually drilling. Like, he'll tell you what he wants and then go do it, dude. That's the old school offensive line coach in John Benton.
Well, to be fair, Corbin, I haven't been at practice, so I haven't seen all this stuff that you're describing in person myself. So this isn't really fair. But boy, I hope, Corbin, in 15 to 20 years, this looks really dumb when when Christian Haynes is accepting his gold jacket in Canton as a center. But man, it feels a little bit like we've pressed all the buttons in the vending machine and now we're just kicking it at center. We're just kicking the vending machine, hoping that the Doritos fall out, because I'll just read since Justin Britt, since he got hurt in mid 2019, we're talking 5.5 years. Let me read to you every single center that has taken at least one snap at center for the Seahawks. Cue the circus music. Jordan Ruse, Joey Hunt, Damian Lewis, Ethan Posick, Kyle Fuller, Austin Blythe, Evan Brown, Jalen Sundell, Oluwatimi, Connor Williams.
This is becoming a Cleveland Browns quarterback jersey.
It really is. I'm talking that's about an average of 2 centers per season for 6 years, and that seems like low. So in case you couldn't tell, I'm kind of at my wit's end with it. So I absolutely hope you are right that Christian Haynes is looking athletic. He's coming into his own. Maybe this is the niche that he's looking for to really carve out a role as a Seahawks with the Seahawks as at center. I have been pretty much at my wit's end for about 5 years with the Seahawks center position. And so, yeah, you're right. It is like the quarterbacks with the Browns. Get that jersey going. Somebody get that jersey going with all the centers. That'd be great. Although the numbers would be a little longer with those double-digit numbers. So, again, I'm, of course, at this point, kicking the vending machine, sometimes the Dorito bag does fall down. So maybe this is it for the centers. And like you said, though, this as of now, if the season were to start today, he's the 3rd string center, according to the comments that Mike Macdonald made. So, but we're talking pure athleticism. If he's getting more comfortable, we both liked him out of college for his pass pro ability out of UConn. It's kind of another analogy, throwing spaghetti against the wall. And, if he's the one that sticks and all of a sudden he becomes a quality center, I'm not going to have anything against that. It just kind of seems like, here we go again until it's not. I really, really hope I'm wrong. And this is posted on his Canton speech in 20 years when he's a Hall of Fame center, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, everybody's hoping for that Hall of Fame bust now. Thanks, Nick, for that. Anyway, I want to switch gears from a position group where it seems like maybe the competitions are getting more wide open, because it does seem that way at center right guard right now, to a position that, look, I try not to read too much into things that coaches say, but at the same time, Mike Macdonald is kind of a straight shooter. He really is. Like, he tells you what's on his mind, and he'll hide some things like any coach or be guarded on things. But I want to read this quote on, he was just asked about the receiver depth that the Seahawks had, and it turned into a soliloquy about how great Jake Bobo is. So I want to read this, and it's just, to me, this just screams Jake Bobo is on this football team. I don't see any way that he's not. Mike Macdonald said this when asked about the battle at receiver. He said, Jake's been an integral part of our football team. Talk about identity, how he plays on special teams, just clutch, catching the ball. The guy's got incredible hands. And now with how we're going to be blocking in the perimeter, you're going to want 19 out there, cracking safeties, doing all those things too. He brings a lot to the table. Look, again, I try not to put too much stock into some of the things that coaches say, but Mike Macdonald might as well have just said, well, in week 1, Jake Bobo is going to be out there a lot, and he's going to be smacking 49ers, because that's what we want him doing on the outside. So I think that Jake Bobo is on this football team. And I said this a few weeks back that I thought he was a lock, but now Mike Macdonald is saying it unofficially. Jake Bobo is going to be on this football team, and I cannot wait to see what they are going to do with him in this offense, how he fits in. But what it really says, Nick, is the Seahawks are going to be in a position where they maybe have one or two spots that are going to be open for at the receiver spot instead of maybe two or three like we anticipated. And that's what makes this entire thing really interesting, in my opinion. And
we might have lost Corbin. So I'll go ahead with my take on Jake Bobo. So Corbin's actually absolutely right. Jake Bobo has just passed with flying colors on anything he's been asked for or anything he's been, asked to do. And he is the typical coach's best friend. And he's the coach's best friend, be it with special teams. And he can hold his own as receiver. We've seen that before. They're not going to ask him to be, a top 2 or 3 target. But certainly he's got the reliable hands. He's 6'4", which sometimes it's hard to forget. It's hard to remember. It's easy to forget that he is a big dude. In fact, now with the departure of DK Metcalf, if you look, you kind of just line up the receivers in it, like in the lineup, taking the mugshots, I guess. Jake Bobo is one of the bigger ones out there. Again, he's not going to, break away. He's not going to bust any downfield. And welcome back, Corbin. I was just talking.
Hey, I jinxed us. Hey, we're both in hotel internet situations, and I was in the middle of talking about Jake Bobo, and I want to make sure you at least heard the quote from Mike Macdonald.
The internet god said, "Oh, Jake Bobo, that's enough. That's enough."
Yeah, the internet gods are the Seahawks gods or whatever. They said, "No, we don't want more Bobo." But I know who does want more Bobo. Mike Macdonald, listening to what he had to say, and we've talked about it, Nick, ourselves on here. I think he's a fantastic fit for this offense and what Klint Kubiak wants to do, and that identity that Mike Macdonald mentioned. So I'm really excited to see what Jake Bobo is going to do in this offense. And I don't want to read too much, but that just screamed to me like Jake Bobo's on this football team. Like there isn't a competition there for his spot, which means there's less opportunities available now to make this team for receivers for the rest of these guys that are battling for spots.
Yeah, like the 2 whites for sure. Yeah, the Cody White, rookie White, and Derick Young. They're all got. All of a sudden, they're like, oh,
Steven Sims. There's a lot of really good receivers that are not making this football team.
Yeah, they might be like the Joker. Like, there's only got one spot, so we're gonna have tryouts.
And Torrey Horton's probably. Torrey Horton had a touchdown catch today that looked really nice, and he's running well. There might not be any drama there. There might be your top 5, and then, maybe we keep Ricky White because he's a special team standout. But, looking at the comments from a few of you, it does sound like we're going to be getting a lot more Bobo.
Good. It sounds like that's the Bobo Bros. I like that. That's one of the first times I've heard that. Maybe I'm.
I think that it seemed like it was a really good fit, and it's funny because he's had a few catches in this training camp, but he hasn't been like one of the guys that's really jumped out. But he was so good in OTAs and minicamp, and look, he's another guy. The pads come out, he's going to get after it. That's just the way that he plays the game. So. Yeah, there might not be near as many spots open as we thought, because think about it. I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is on this football team. I don't see him not being on this team. We know that JSN and Cooper Kupp are going to be on this football team. It sounds like Jake Bobo is on this football team. So really, if they're going to keep 5 receivers or 6 receivers, you have 1 or 2 spots. And I can make an argument Torrey Horton is going to be on this football team. The Seahawks aren't going to say that, but he's going to be on this football team. So if you're going to keep 6 guys, you have all these dudes are fighting for one spot that hasn't been decided at this point. And so offensive line, it feels like the competition is getting ramped up. And look, a few of you are saying you don't keep a wide receiver for blocking. Jake Bobo does more than block. And when he's had his chances, he's made plays as a receiver. So this isn't just keeping a blocker, but they want somebody that's going to get after it on the perimeter. Jake Bobo was the second best graded run blocking wide receiver in the NFL his rookie year 2 years ago. he will get after it. So I think he is a Klint Kubiak and Mike Macdonald kind of guy. It just seems like maybe there isn't going to be that much drama. It's basically going to boil down to who can return kicks and punts to get that last spot. And so kind of an interesting dynamic for the Seahawks on offense. When we come back, I know Nick has talked some center already, but we're going to talk a little more center with where Jalen Sundell fits into this competition and right guard as well. And going to listen to the interview that I had with Jalen Sundell at the VMAC. Really nice kid. Enjoyed having the chance to talk to him about John Benton playing in this offense, what a whirlwind the last year was for him, and much more. Going to get to that coming up next here on our Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. This episode is brought your way by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat. Get your draft board ready and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, Nick and I are going to be playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making a millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years. I love how smooth the draft day experience is, especially after I've come up with a goofy team name. Our Locked On League's been running through Yahoo for a while now. Easy setup, great mobile app, and the smack talk, it just hits different in the message boards, especially when I'm rubbing a victory in Nick's face. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating and joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Welcome back to the Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. He's Nick Lee. A special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in. And thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. The Seahawks now with 3 days of training camp under their belts, in the books. The pads are going to be coming out in a couple days, and then we'll really get a sense where things are at with this offensive line when they get to really start hitting each other and blocking and all that fun stuff. But to this point, as we've talked about a lot in the past few days, Nick, there is clearly a wide open situation at center and mostly at right guard. And it's interesting because Anthony Bradford at the right guard spot, it seems like he might be fading a little bit here these first couple days. He's been doing mostly second team. In fact, I don't know if I've seen him in with the starters here in these first 3 days. Christian Haynes has gotten a lot of those reps, and Jalen Sundell has gotten quite a few of those reps at right guard. And Sundell has gotten mixed in there with the second team at center. We've seen Christian Haynes take snaps, we mentioned. So it seems like it's wide open, but Sundell, just like Christian Haynes, very much is in the mix for both those spots. And it feels like, again, John Benton and this coaching staff, they're trying to figure out, is there a way that we can get both these guys on the field together? And I think it's really fascinating, particularly with a player like Jalen Sundell, who literally signed with the Seahawks a couple days before training camp last year. He hadn't done OTAs, minicamp. Like, it's already hard enough for undrafted rookies who do get to participate in the offseason program. He didn't get any of that. Like, it's like, hey, here's your number, here's your practice stuff, and we'll see you tomorrow. We're going to start camp. And he just got thrown into the fire, and somehow he impressed. And with his versatility, he's played every spot in college at North Dakota State. He played with Gray Zabel. He was a college roommate with Gray Zabel. Now that versatility, he got to be on the roster last year and suited up for 12 games. He had a really key block to spring Zach Charbonnet for a touchdown against the Packers. There's a reason that there's this underlying excitement that's starting to come out now about Jalen Sundell, because he is one of those guys that his athletic testing shows up on the field. He really is light in his feet, moves well, really smart, incredibly reliable player who's going to get after it. He got their Top Hawk offseason award, which is a huge deal in Mike Macdonald's world. So that's teammates and coaches that are picking that. So this guy is revered by his teammates. I think Jalen Sundell, maybe he isn't starting week 1, but I absolutely think the Seahawks would have no issue if he found a way to win one of those jobs. They really like this kid.
And there's no reason not to. I mean, there are those types of people. You've met them in your life. It not just has to be doesn't have to be football, where they just thrive when they're given a chance. Maybe they're underappreciated, undervalued, but when they've get a chance to shine, they come through. When the baptism by fire thing sometimes works for people, and Jaylen Sundell, with his versatility, his athleticism, I think is shining through. And he seems like one of those guys where like every good team needs X. Every good team needs a player kind of like Jalen Sundell in the depth of their offensive line. Is he probably gonna be an All-Pro this year? Probably not. Like you said, he might not even be starting. But there's something to be said for a guy that can play every spot. He's got rapport. He's got experience. If you're gonna build a solid offensive line, which yes, in the chat, there's only one way to go for this offensive line, and that's up.
That's what you hope. You hope
that's true. Yes, I don't disagree. But if you're going to start building up for your offensive line, Jaylen Sundell can absolutely, with what he brings to the table, it can absolutely be a building block towards that.
Well, as far as where Jalen Sundell fits into all this, I think you have to backtrack a little bit to what last year was like. And I had the opportunity to hear from the man himself what it was like getting thrown into the fire and some of the specifics behind that, what he's seeing from John Benton, this zone blocking scheme, what they're asking these players to do. Some really interesting answers coming from the VMAC. Take a listen. Our first training camp interview of the 2025 season, Jalen Sundell.
Let's talk about your first full NFL offseason. I know you kind of got here last season.
Yeah.
How has that gone for you here the last few months, having that opportunity to really dive into this new offense and the new coaches that you've got?
Yeah, no, it's been good. It was fun to do my first NFL offseason with the team, and then to get a head start and get to learn the offense before we get into fall camp. Because last year I didn't get a chance to do that, so I was behind last year. So it was nice to have that time.
What was that like? Because I know you played a lot of snaps at North Dakota State, and then you come in and you didn't get OTAs, you didn't get mini camp, any of that stuff, and it's just kind of like, hey, here you go, you're in an NFL training camp. What was that like trying to acclimate to that when you're going against NFL players? You hadn't had any of that time that other rookies have had leading into it.
Yeah, I just had to do what I knew, and we had like one meeting before the first practice last year, so and I didn't get too many snaps right away. I think I had maybe 4 snaps on the first practice, and I would just figure out what I was doing before, and then I don't know what the our offensive line coach wanted at the time, so I just did what I knew and tried to do it full speed. So I just had to rely on the basics.
Yeah, that you go from that to getting an opportunity to play Green Bay game. You get quite a few snaps there. Your first opportunity to play in a regular season game. What was that experience like, being able to be on the field in front of the 12s, being in the heat of a game against another really good football team, and then just being at that point when you arrived so late and getting that opportunity?
Yeah, it was pretty special. From going to being a tryout guy to playing on Sunday Night Football, and then my dad made the last second decision to actually come to that game, so it was pretty special. Yeah.
Oh, that had to make that even sweeter. They did the one game that you.
Yeah, they came to. My parents came to a lot of games, but that was one game that they weren't planning on going, and then I think it was Friday or something. My dad decided to come, so it was pretty cool.
Let's talk Coach Benton. You mentioned last year with Coach Hoffley, I'm just crash course here. Don't know what to expect, but now you've had this whole offseason with Coach Benton, 20 plus years as offensive line coach in the NFL. What's that experience been like, getting to know him and how he operates compared to your previous coaches?
Yeah, I just Coach Ben, I enjoy doing his style. He knows exactly what he wants, how he wants it done, and how it fits in the system, and it's proven, and it's pretty cool that if when you decide to buy in and do the things that they're teaching, that it works. So it's pretty cool.
And he's coming from originally learning from Klint Kubiak's father in Houston, and then before that, they're very in depth with the Shanahan style offense. Obviously, the zone is a huge part of that.
Yeah. What
do you believe personally is the most important part about being successful as an offensive lineman in a zone blocking offense?
Well, for this scheme, I think the most important thing is buying into the techniques that are maybe non-traditional to, what we've been doing a lot of our careers. The combinations are different as far as how we're going to do them, as far as like how we're going to, execute our blocks. It's different than a lot of football that most of us have played.
What do you think is the biggest teaching point so far that's maybe surprised you on that front? With it being a lot different maybe than what you had been around before?
Yeah, it's a lot less of like true double teams, and as far as we're getting on, to the backers a lot quicker, and it's an athletic type of get off the ball and run sort of scheme.
Do you see it being with these differences? Do you see him playing center and right guard, which you're getting to see some action in both those spots? Do you see it being different in terms of how your responsibilities are between those two positions? Because I know some zone running games, there's a lot of carryover with centers and guards. Then some zone schemes, this is much different than say if I slide over to right guard.
Yeah, I mean, when you learn the offense as an interior guy, or really everybody should, but you should try and learn it from a holistic standpoint, know where, all five of the offensive line spots and what they're doing. So as far as schematics, it's not that much different. And honestly, a lot of the techniques and execution is really the same, except you get to have your hand in the ground at guard. So, I mean, a lot of it's the same, honestly.
I'm saying this from a running back perspective. That's the position I played. That's the position I coached. So I always am curious from an offensive line's perspective.
There's some things that are different, but a lot of it's the same.
Yeah, what's the toughest front to try to block against when you're running a wide zone concept? And I'm always fascinated by different answers that I get from offensive line to this. I'm sure it varies by the type of system that you're into.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the play, honestly, but the more gaps you have covered to the side you're trying to run the ball, the harder it is. So I don't know if there's... I mean, if you got like a 6-1 front, that's obviously hard to run the ball against. So I don't know. It's a nuanced question, I guess.
I'll move away from scheme stuff here
Yeah.
real quick. What has it been like being able to play the center position and have your college teammate next to you, Gray Zabel? And how much does that help when both of you are learning a new system together? The fact that you guys have played so much together in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great to have him here. We were college roommates for 3 years, so it's been really cool to have him here and be able to learn the system together and use our athleticism together, and it's been really cool. And that's the cool part about us having a younger offensive line too, is that we don't have anybody that's out there going to say, I'm not going to buy into this technique. I've been doing it for 10 years. I'm not going to change. Like we don't have that, which is cool with the new offense. So everybody's buying into this system and the techniques. So it's pretty cool.
Really interesting answers from Jaylen Sundell. I love to talk about the youth on their offensive line, how that actually could be a good thing here, because these guys, they don't know any better. Let's teach the new technique. They're not set in their ways. They are buying in, and that makes it certainly an exciting group to watch, especially with a lot of versatile players like Jalen Sundell. As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Nick at Nick Lee 51. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. We'll be coming back on Monday, diving into some of the takeaways coming out of the weekend from the Seahawks and gearing up for the first padded practice at the VMAC. Make sure that you're listening in. Enjoy your weekend. Go Hawks.